Racing through the streets of Niagara Falls, New York, and this is the Rothmans Porsche Turbo Cup. Hi, I'm Joe Tilley, and welcome to round 2 of the Rothmans Porsche Turbo Cup. This is a street circuit which has been transformed into a race course this very special weekend. This noise has replaced the thunder of the falls as a noise that usually attracts thousands of visitors. A lot of tourists stop at the historic Fort Niagara, strategically built on the American shore. And the area is popular with sailors looking for a close-up view of the enormous hydroelectric dams that supply both sides of the border. Sundays are family days, but whether it's a bike ride with Dad or a leisurely stroll to meet some friendly new faces, there's always that roar in the background. It's the falls, of course, but there's new excitement here. Parties have been planned, traffic rerouted, debris fencing and concrete barriers encircle literally dozens of city blocks. And the downtown convention center has taken on the look of a mega stable of thoroughbred racing machinery. And the roar this weekend is these turbo Porsche 944s. Here's what the points lead looks like after our first event. Most Sport winner Scott Goodyear has 25 points, only 2 more than rival Richard Spenard. Stefan Prue is third, followed by Case Nierop, Rick Bai, and Ludwig Heimrath. With more on this tough circuit, here's Pat Gonzalez.
Thank you, Joe. If there's a race in this year's Rothmans Porsche Turbo Cup that'll put the greatest demands on machinery, tires, drivers, and crews, it's this weekend's event through the streets of Niagara Falls. Unlike a permanent racing facility such as Mosport, here at Niagara Falls, the drivers will have to handle a variety of different racing surfaces, from old and new asphalt to concrete, and yes, even manhole and sewer covers that have been welded shut and cemented over. Of particular concern are the new sections of asphalt that were laid down as recently as just a couple of days ago. If they haven't cured properly, then what happens is that as the cars get on there and a tremendous pounding that they put to these new sections of asphalt, bits of that will start to break away and create what the drivers call marbles. That produces a very, very slick racetrack, and the danger then is those cars on those little bits of asphalt will slide off into the concrete retaining walls. It'll be very important for the drivers to have the right suspension setup and the right tire pressure in those Pirelli P0s to handle the variety of racing surfaces here through the streets of Niagara Falls.
Here's how this course takes shape. Lots of 90-degree corners with Niagara Street and Rainbow Boulevard the only real top gear sections. We'll take a preview lap with race number 1 winner Scott Goodyear. Look at how close they get to these walls. The cars run counterclockwise and the acceleration areas are short before another corner combination. We asked Scott what he thought of this course.
I think it's very demanding and very tough circuit, as all street circuits are. There's no room for error, and I much enjoy a street circuit. We've always done very well on it, and to get the car to work well on it, you have to really make sure you push the car and set the car up right, which we seem to have been able to do so far.
On the short laneway now, this is a section under the convention center canopy and back out into the bright sunshine.
Joe, that's got to be a big adjustment for these drivers. Then they come up on a right-hander there, 90 degrees, past the pit entrance on the right, through a second 90-degree turn and onto the start-finish straightaway to complete the 1.6-mile lap here at Niagara Falls.
And that's a challenge here today. We'll be back in a moment. This is the Rothmans Porsche Turbo Cup from Niagara Falls, New York. Welcome back to Niagara Falls, New York for the Rothmans Porsche Turbo Cup. We're just moments away from today's race. Here's Pat Gonzalez.
Our grid for today's race, the pole sitter is Scott Goodyear, our first race winner in the Pop 84 Porsche. Alongside of him will be the 1986 champion Case Nierop. Row number 2 has Richard Spenard and teammate Stefan Prue. They were second and third at Mosport in the downtown fine cars Motormaster Porsches. Row 3, Richard Laporte and Brian Malcolm, who's qualified very well here this weekend. Rick Bai and Uli Berry make up row 4. Row 5 is Cam Champion and Jacques Liliev. Gleason and David will start in the 6th row. Young David Tennyson alongside David Deacon in row 7, Claude Gu and Pierre Desmarais in the 8th row, Ludwig Heimrath and Reinhold Schill in 9, and the 10th row has Jacques Bienvenu and Ted Powell. Zav Aberman and Nicholas Hornbostel start in the final row. There is the green flag. The cars charge for turn 1. Scott Goodyear has the lead, and there you can see some bumping as Cam Champion nailed Rick By. The camera shot from the back of Rick By's car as they went through turn 1. So a lot of contact here, Joe, in that very tight first turn.
Two drivers not starting today are Jacques Bienvenu and Ray David. They smacked up their cars in qualifying and decided not to enter today's race.
Scott Goodyear, the leader, Case Nierop right with him, and then the two bright orange and black cars of Spenard and Stefan Prue, single file on the straightaway. You're aboard Case Nierop's car as Nierop makes a move to the inside of Goodyear going into this left-hander. Was able to close it right up on the Pop 84 Porsche, but could not get through.
Pat Spenard and Prue are teammates. They might try to do some drafting and try to help each other out through these straightaways.
Spenard running in at third place position. Prue a few car lengths further back. He'll have to get up a lot closer to work the draft. And there's Goodyear locking up the front wheels as he got on the brakes very hard going through that left-hand turn. Case Nierop has closed it right up. So Goodyear is your leader. Nierop in second, Spenard third. Prue is running fourth. And we have got a battle just behind the front-running 4 drivers for that 5th place position involving Rick By, Brian Malcolm, and Richard Laporte. They run under the canopy of the Niagara Falls Convention Center. You're with Rick By as he moves inside of Brian Malcolm and Richard Laporte to pick up 2 positions. What a move by Rick By there as he picked up 2 spots going from 7th into 5th.
Pat, our leaders seem to have found a rhythm, and being just behind the top 4 has to be a little bit frustrating right now.
Rick By trying to catch those front-running 4 drivers. You're with Stefan Prue as he's got a front row seat for the front-running 3-driver battle involving Spenard, the leader Goodyear, and Case Nierop, who's sandwiched right in between. There you can see Rick By, and he has now caught the front-running 4 drivers here through turn 1. Rick By is definitely in the hunt here for that first spot, and there's By. No. He's into the wall. Rick By has smacked the wall, and he has really crunched the left side of that Porsche. Scott Goodyear still your leader. Nierop in second, Spenard third, Prue is fourth.
Rick By has to be extremely disappointed, Pat. He had just moved up from 7th to 5th, appeared to be ready to make a charge, and now he smacked the wall. That car is definitely out of the race, but fortunately, Rick By is okay.
Scott Goodyear by just 2 or 3 car lengths on Case Nierop. Then it's Spenard third, Stefan Prue, the rookie, having a good run here in 4th. Brian Malcolm is 5th. Laporte, Bieri, Gleason, Champion, and Lilievre round out the top 10. This is the race for 5th between Brian Malcolm, who qualified much better here in Niagara Falls than he did at Mosport, followed by Richard Laporte.
Now we're inside the car of Ludwig Heimrath, who's working hard to keep his Porsche between the walls. He's one of the drivers that had some trouble in qualifying. Shortly after his qualifying incident, I asked him what he thought about this circuit.
Well, I think it's a beautiful layout in the street course, but it's a very, very difficult racetrack. So, it needs a lot of thinking to get it around quick and properly. And like I said, and keep your brakes in good shape.
Ludwig Heimrath, you can see the concentration in his eyes as he muscles that steering wheel to keep his Porsche under control. There's the 7th place driver, number 40, Uli Bieri, and right behind him in 8th is Chris Gleason in the yellow and white automobile.
There's Case Nierop in second, pushing Scott Goodyear. Nierop is one of the drivers that stayed off the wall during qualifying. I asked him where the best places to pass are.
Coming out the back part, this extra parking lot here would be turn 3 or 4 maybe. There seems to be a little bit of room there where we can pass. Obviously down the long straightaway at the end there, although there is some paint on the highway there, like a median. Definitely don't want to do too much on that. That's a real slippery spot. So there's about 2 or 3 spots where a guy should be able to pass cleanly. And obviously forcing your way past is any 90-degree turn, a guy could force his way past.
Just out of the 90-degree turn at the bottom of Niagara Street, Goodyear has a 4 or 5 car length lead on Nierop. There's the gaps that have developed as we see them begin to string out here.
The black and yellow car there is Brian Malcolm, Richard Laporte just behind him. Then the 40 car of Uli Bieri in 7th, followed by Chris Gleason in the 8th place spot. Back with the leader, Scott Goodyear, as he slides it through that left-hand turn, and Case Nierop has really got his hands full with Richard Spenard. Spenard has closed to within just a couple of car lengths, and he wants that second place position. He's going to have to get around Nierop to get up there and make a bid for the lead against Goodyear. You're with Stefan Prue as he watches the front-running 3 cars ahead of him, and Prue, the rookie in the Rothmans Porsche Turbo Cup Series, trying to get up there and battle with some of the veteran drivers. There you can see Prue really having to muscle the car through that left-hand turn as they come up onto the straightaway. It's still Goodyear leading, followed by Case Nierop in second place, about 9 or 10 car lengths separating first and second. Then Spenard, followed by Stefan Prue as they break going into this left-hand turn. The running order stays the same.
Pat, that's Chris Gleason out of his car and apparently out of the race with mechanical problems. We'll be back with more of the Rothmans Porsche Turbo Cup from Niagara Falls, New York. Welcome back to race number 2 of the Rothmans Porsche Turbo Cup from Niagara Falls, New York. Our leader from the green flag has been Scott Goodyear. Case Nierop is second, and third is Richard Spenard.
Race leader Scott Goodyear through turn 1. You can see him muscling his car through the new and old asphalt. About 11 car lengths back to the second place driver Nierop, and then Spenard right there in third. You're with the 5th and 6th place drivers. That is Brian Malcolm in the black and yellow car. Right behind him, Richard Laporte. And of course, both of those drivers, no strangers, as they've raced the last few seasons in Formula 2000. They've been top runners there, and right now running up in the top 10 in this Rothmans Porsche Turbo Cup Series race. There you can see only about 7 car lengths separating those two drivers, as they have a pretty good go at each other coming under the Niagara Falls Convention Center. There is your leader, Scott Goodyear. You can see the margin now closing up as Nierop, Joe, has picked up some of that distance. Spenard also closing up on the leader as they head up onto the straightaway. Stefan Prue there back in the 4th place spot. So things starting to tighten up a little bit up front. Further back in the pack, this is the battle involving 3 drivers there. David Deacon in the 44 car, the yellow, red, and white automobile. Right behind him is the rookie, 19-year-old David Tennyson, and then car number 46, that is Claude Gu. These 3 drivers having a pretty good battle for 10th place, and there you can see Tennyson going wide off the turn.
It's Scott Goodyear, Case Nierop, and Richard Spenard. Prue and Malcolm, Uli Bieri 6th with CAN champion Jacques Liliev. David Deacon in 9th, and in 10th spot is David Tennyson and his Denon CS Yachts entry.
Scott Goodyear has led since the drop of the green flag here in Niagara Falls. Right now he holds about a 10 car length lead on the 2nd place driver Nierop, and then it's Spenard third.
Spenard has another race to go to back in Canada before this afternoon is over. I asked him earlier if it was logistically possible to compete in both races.
Can be done, but hopefully nothing will happen that could go wrong. As you know, Murphy Law's always there. Yesterday we tested the system. It didn't work, so we're changing the system today. Actually, I have to use a bicycle to go across the bridge to clear custom by foot because it's going to be easier this way, it's shorter. I take a chopper from Niagara Falls, Canada to the St. Catherine Airport. Then I fly from St. Catherine to Deseronto. Deseronto, the problem is it's a small airport. There's no control, so if it has to be IFR with instrument, we won't be able to land there. Therefore, it's all down the tube. So hopefully the weather will clear and we'll be able to make it.
Back to our race now. That's David Tennyson. He's past number 44, David Deacon, to take 9th spot. Both of them now are clear of Claude Gu.
Joe, David Tennyson is only 19 years old, and he's a rookie in the Rothmans Porsche Turbo Cup Series, but he has the advantage of running with the same Downtown Fine Cars team as Richard Spenard and Stefan Prue. Let's look for David to be a regular in the top 10 this year.
Here's a man that can teach us all a little bit about driving. Scott Goodyear is making it look easy. He's been able to maintain a gap between himself and the chasers, Nierop and Spenard.
Spenard trying to close back up on Nierop. He was to within a couple of car lengths a few laps ago. Nierop has pulled it back out to about 4 or 5, but there you can see the interval separating the top 3 drivers. Goodyear going through. Then it is Nierop in second, Spenard still third, and Stefan Prue having his problems trying to stay up with the front-running 3 drivers. He continues to drop a little further back off the pace. Battle further back in the pack, car 36 there, the red and white en route car. That is Zab Aberman. Right behind him, 55, the all-red Porsche. That is Nicholas Ali Hornbostel. They're having a pretty good run all by themselves, certainly well back of the leaders. In fact, Scott Goodyear is closing on Aberman and Hornbostel. You know, Aberman was the 1984 Canadian Endurance Champion. He was 25th in the series a year ago. Hornbostel's done a lot of racing in Europe. Here's Joe Tilley with a special report from the pits.
I'm with Dennis Ryder, the Pop 84 FAF crew chief. Dennis, you won the first race. We're halfway through the second race. You're leading. The car seems to be well prepared.
Well, we got 14 more laps to go. Come and see me in 13 laps and I may be happy. At the moment, we're running faster than what we qualified. 1:33.17. So we're ahead of the game at the moment. And we're still number one. So we're going to stay just where we are. But we're catching up to the tail enders now. And in that case, it's anybody's game. Who can get through the best? Gotta go.
Well, Joe, one of the reasons that Dennis Ryder has to go, as you can see here, Scott Goodyear is coming up on Ali Hornbostel and Zab Aberman, as he will now move to the inside of Hornbostel. He will make the pass on him on the fastest part of the racetrack. And now Goodyear working on Aberman as these cars well up over 100 miles an hour. Goodyear through cleanly, and will put both of those drivers a lap down.
Goodyear certainly got through easy enough. We'll have to wait and see if Nierop and Spinard can do the same.
They weave through the slower traffic here with Case Nierop as he dives in on the inside of Hornbostel, having problems there with Aberman. Now he'll try to get through, and he does. But Nierop definitely got hung up, and now Spinard is trapped in behind the two slower drivers as they come under the Niagara Falls Convention Center canopy. There is Nierop. He is through. Spinard sandwiched in between Aberman and Hornbostel on the straightaway, and he's still not able to get around Aberman. Through the right-hand turn, coming onto the straightaway, Spinard now finally pulls up to the outside of Aberman, and he will move around the two slower cars. So Aberman and Hornbostel both now have been lapped by the top three drivers. It is still Goodyear, your leader, Case Nierop in second, Spinard through and into that third-place position.
Pat Aberman and Hornbostel know they're not going to win this race, but they haven't given up either. They're going at each other pretty good right here.
Well, now that the leaders are through, Hornbostel and Aberman can get back to their own personal battle, and here's Hornbostel on the inside of Aberman. The two drivers collide in the turn as Hornbostel will continue. Aberman trying to turn it around.
Pat, it looks like both drivers will continue. We'll be back with more from Niagara Falls and the Rothmans Porsche Turbo Cup Series. Welcome back to the Rothmans Porsche Turbo Cup Series Round 2 from Niagara Falls, New York.
There is the leader, Scott Goodyear, in the Pop 84 Porsche. There's Case Nierop going through on the inside of Ted Powell in the green Fujifilm Porsche. He'll put him a lap down. And Richard Spinard there in the bright orange and black Motomaster Downtown Fine Cars Porsche back in third.
Pat, they've really picked up the pace throughout this race. There's a look at the watch on Scott Goodyear. The middle number is his last lap, a 1:33.
Ole Bieri hits the wall. Bieri coming off of that turn smacks the outside wall. The left side of that Porsche is damaged. He'll try to limp around the racetrack. And here is Bieri. He'll cut right to the outside there in what is turn one. And it looks like he's got a flat left front tire. He is going to have to park it. Back with the leader, Scott Goodyear. There you can see Case Nierop in car number 3, and right behind him Spinard. Richard Spinard has closed it back up, and both Spinard and Nierop have gotten a little bit closer to Scott Goodyear, so we could be in for a very close battle among the top three drivers before this is over.
Pat, Richard Spinard has really made up a lot of ground on Nierop in these closing laps. He'd like to get around Nierop and continue that personal battle of his with Scott Goodyear.
Well, we saw the stopwatch on Scott Goodyear. In fact, just about all of the drivers are running faster here in the race simply because they're a little bit more used to the circuit here in Niagara Falls, and there's a lot more rubber down on the racetrack, providing a little better traction. There you can see the front-running three drivers, and there is Spinard. He has slowed on the straightaway. Problems on the Richard Spinard car. He has pulled to the left side of the racetrack. Something has definitely gone wrong in the engine compartment on his Porsche. He has slowed right down here on the fastest section of the racetrack. As you can see the other cars going by. Spinard checking his mirrors, looking for traffic. He's pulled off to the left side, and that has got to be a major disappointment for Richard, who ran so strong at the opener at Mosport, and now it looks like he will not finish here in Niagara Falls.
And Pat, that certainly changes our leaderboard. Stefan Prue moves up to third, then it's Brian Malcolm, Richard Laporte, and Cam Champion. Seventh is Jacques Liliev, and Tennyson, Deakin, and Gu round out the top 10.
With Richard Spinard out, Case Nierop has surely one thing on his mind, and that's to pass Scott Goodyear. We heard him earlier talk about how few passing areas there really are here. But let's see if he can make up the gap to challenge as we're winding down to the finish. You're with Case Nierop as he tries to chase down Scott Goodyear. Back to the new third-place driver there, Stefan Prue, as he puts a lap on Pierre Desmarais in the Tech Mix Porsche.
Pat, we've just received word that Richard Spinard has gone around the course, signaled his pit crew. They've raced around the outside of the circuit with a bicycle. Richard is going to leave his car so he can ride across the Rainbow Bridge to that helicopter he talked about earlier. He's going to try to make it to that other race.
Scott Goodyear, your leader. Case Nierop, the second-place driver, still trying to chase him down. You could see Spinard pulling off the racetrack there, Joe.
Spinard is calling it an afternoon here at Niagara Falls. You know, this is similar to a situation he had once last year. He had to hop out of his car at Mosport, get on a helicopter, and he headed to Le Mans for the 24-hour race there. But he can't feel very good about the finish here today. This really hurts his chances of winning this series.
Well, there's a driver who certainly should feel good about how well he has run here this afternoon. That is Scotty Goodyear, the second-place driver there. Nierop really trying to get close as Scotty Goodyear goes through the right-hander. He's coming up on a slower driver. That is number 29, Reinhold Schill. As we are on the last lap, Goodyear trying to bring it home to the checkered flag. You can see Nierop trying very hard, and here's Goodyear on the inside of Schill, who locked up the wheels there for a second as Goodyear has just one corner to go, and he'll be looking for the checkered flag as he comes onto the start-finish straight away at the line. Scott Goodyear has won the Rothmans Porsche Turbo Cup race here in Niagara Falls.
As we look at Niagara Falls, let's take a look at the final standings here. Scott Goodyear wins the race. Case Nierop chases all race long to finish second. Stefan Prue inherits third place, followed by Brian Malcolm, Richard Laporte, Cam Champion.
David Tennyson turns in a splendid drive to finish in seventh. It's Claude Gu 8th, Reinhold Schill 9th, and Pierre Desmarais in 10th. Here's Joe Tilley with our happy winner and series points leader, Scott Goodyear.
Well, I'll tell you, that was a bit of a workout. I don't think we had the advantage of all the traffic this weekend. Last weekend the traffic helped us, and I think the three sets of traffic that we passed, I lost about 2 or 3 car lengths on Case. He kept prepping up on us there, so it was tough just watching the signboard, seeing how far we're ahead, not knowing the circuit, not knowing how the tires will last, the brakes will last. You're sort of a guinea pig out in front there. But the FAF Porsche Pop 84 group did a great job, and the car came home perfect, not a complaint, and I just had to drive it. It was great.
It was great for the drivers who participated in this inaugural event through the streets of Niagara Falls, New York. There's the winner's trophy being presented to Scott Goodyear by Porsche Division Manager Fred Doobie. Join us next time for round 3 of the Rothmans Porsche Turbo Cup Series. From Mont Tremblant, Quebec, for Joe Tilley, I'm Pat Gonzalez. So long.